This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
So slow. Too slow today. The last two times
I was looking
like
at my water bottle.
It's okay. You shouldn't look at your water bottle when I start talking. That's negative points. Sorry. But
yes,
Brent,
I was pouring my water and looking at the water bottle and it totally caught off guard there. My apologies.
Brent's here. I'm
it's
here.
We're
back
episode
at it.
Of 22.
Yeah, it's our second episode of 2022. We're just getting back into this. I'll just start off just really quick, Brent. How's your 2022 starting? We're like a couple weeks into January here. Personally, we've had a couple deals, which I can't complain about. There's some okay deals that have happened, but it's kind of slow. Like inventory is really just dripping in so slowly, and it's kind of hard to get the enthusiasm. What's your take on things right now?
Opposite. So
Okay.
We're listing predominant. So I'm not working with a lot of buyers, developers working with, and trying to find inventory has been scarce for the last couple of years in general. But we just signed up yesterday, 3 new listings, 2 the day before. We're supposed to get 2 more today. And all of these people, the topic right now, it's like, let's wait until March or April. And I'm like, no, why not be a trendsetter? Set the price for the entire spring market and let other people follow versus let other people set the trend and then you're following the prices of what just sold 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to. So our topic conversation for the last couple of weeks have been, let's get it on the market now. We have had multiple offers across the board on a couple of our listings. We set a record down in Navy Yard with a condo we just closed yesterday. We're setting another record on a home we put under contract 2 weeks ago. So to your point, there is no inventory. So if you get something, get it on the market quick.
Yeah, their competition is going to be pretty limited if you have a listing right now. That's true, very true. It's tricky getting certain types of listings ready in this kind of weather. We've had a couple snowy, cruddy days and some darkness, so doing photos and everything is always a little tricky to balance that. But that's what we do best, right? It's a balancing act. So
trick photography, making a junior 1-bedroom look like a spacious 1-bedroom den,
and dropping in like a starry night sky in a basement condo unit. It's very tricky. We don't do that. That's just a disclaimer. Sorry. Let's bring in our guest. Wait, go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
No, it's one other thing you mentioned about the weather, though. We brought on that house I just mentioned in Navy Yard down in Capitol Quarter. 20003 is the zip code. And I thought that the open house would be a bust because it was pouring down rain the entire day on Sunday. And I had 52 people through the open house, which was mind-boggling. It was the highest price of that model, and we had 5 offers that went. We didn't go to the max of the escalator, but the escalator would have gone up to 150,000 over if that buyer would have been escalated up. But we still got 60,000 over list price.
Yeah, I had a buyer who was
again a rainy Sunday.
I had a buyer who was involved in a multiple offer situation following that same rainy Sunday, and it was an 11 offer situation for a house in Chevy Chase. Luckily, we prevailed, but yeah, I guess the weather didn't really keep people away because there's such limited inventory. So,
yep.
All right, so our guest is right here, Yianni Konstantopoulos. How are you doing, sir?
I am well. Thank you for having me. Can't complain.
Mr. Yanni is here.
Yanni,
only,
yes.
Yanni's with Compass Real Estate. He is part of the Thrive team at Compass here in DC. Yanni, why don't you give us some?
Not only part of the team, but he's the founder.
He's the founder of the team. I've known Yanni for years, but Yanni, for our listeners, why don't you give us some background, like where you're from originally, and how did your career start in real estate?
So I'm Greek originally. We moved to the DC area when I was 1.5. So I've been a Washingtonian, a local boy for a long time. Grew up in Kensington, went to Georgetown Prep, stuck around locally for undergrad and grad school. I really haven't left too much of a 20-mile radius for many years. My background in real estate, this is my 7th year. I joke that April Fool's Day 2015 is when I kind of embarked on this full time. My background is in management consulting and marketing and communications. and my dad and brother have been active in the community. My dad's a contractor. My brother's a builder.
Hmm.
So I've been in and around houses for a long time. I picked up my first condo in 2007 when I was consulting. And when I left the agency world and we moved back from living abroad, I knew it was a thing I wanted to pursue. April Fool's Day 2015, and my wife and I joke about it. Like, if this didn't work out well, we would have just told people it's a giant April Fool's Day joke. But it's been a rewarding experience. It's been great. I started at Green Line Real Estate. They were literally a block and a half away from my house when I
Hmm.
first entered into this career path. I give Tom Spear and Phil DeRogerio a lot of credit for teaching me kind of how real estate works and what to think about and how to go about it. And I'd like to think that they hopefully give me a little bit of credit on how marketing and thinking about social media helped them grow Greenline from its infancy.
Hmm.
Chris Burns and I came over to Sotheby's 9 months later, and we were there for a little bit at the beginning of the Thrive Team experiment. And then we moved over to Compass a couple of years back. And it's been great. I mean, I think no 2 days are the same. You're exposed to a whole incredible property mix and fun people, and the challenges that we're solving. At the end of the day, I tell the team that we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
Your realtor hat takes on financing, it takes on architecture, it takes on design, it takes on plumbing, it takes on roofing, it takes on zoning. Like, you've got to think about a little bit of everything, but
Yeah.
no two clients are ever the same. No two properties are ever the exact same. Even things in condo buildings where it's
So
the
true.
exact same tier, they could just be 2 floors apart. Um, you know, the ins and outs are going to be really similar, but no 2 days are the same.
I always find that with
So
condo
going
building.
back a little,
Well, I just wanted to say really quick what
go
you were
ahead.
saying about condo buildings. Like, I work, we do obviously a lot of transactions where you might have multiple listings in one building. I find that even just like when couple months go by, just the landscape has changed in the condo building. Like, there's some new repair going on in the building, or an assessment, or a new manager, and so all of the things that you sort of learned about that condo building can change really quickly. So you think you have it in the bag, but you're always relearning things constantly. So I feel you on that.
Yeah, even to the point like you just mentioned, like with access. I mean, you got the new front desk person. They kind of let you go through and do your
Right.
thing and get your key and go up to the unit. And new front desk lady comes and she's the gatekeeper, like going to a doctor office, and they will not let you back unless you show your photo ID, your real
Right.
estate license, and all that jazz to get back there. And it's like it can be a nightmare.
Ridiculous.
Backing up just a little bit. So coming out of consulting, families in the business, like why did you choose to be a real estate agent versus like going in, because you do a lot of development work with developers, like being a developer or contractor or something besides real estate agent?
I mean, for me, I think development and working with developers was something that I thought really early on in moving into real estate, because it's the most predictable path, right? Like, they are thinking about things on a broader scale. It's not just the one-off transaction. And it just, for me, it was the interest of, how do you take a vacant lot or a row house or a burnt out warehouse, and and you apply highest and best use, what can be envisioned. I didn't know what could be envisioned. Like, and I thought developers are going to be the ones to figure this out from. I thought really early on that, knowing my dad and brother's backgrounds and connections and experience in the city, it'd be, at some point maybe we can start to do this, right? And I still think have that in an agenda or on the horizon to think about doing our own projects. But I think developers, like, the space was really unique because they're working with many, many top agents. So, like anything else, for me, it was like, all right, if you can tap into the folks that are doing really great work, that are
Hmm.
producing great units, that are winning awards, but they're also working with the best agents in the city who are finding them opportunities, that are helping set new records when they sell the units, you're going to get kind of a faster education in how to be good in this space. I think, like in anything, if you're surrounded by and working with and connecting to people who are a lot better than you, you're gonna get better at that thing. So really early on, I knew I wanted to focus in a little bit of that niche, and was fortunate to make really good relationships with folks that are still long clients today.
So would you say is that a niche that you were aiming for when you started your business, as you were trying to work more with like new product and developers, or were you just taking clients as you could, or how did it begin?
Sure. So when I first started, like I went where the business was.
Right.
I was a mid-career professional, and I had parked my license at a great local organization that was doing great work. But when there's no salary coming and you've got obligations and you've got bills and you've got stuff, you go where the business was.
Hmm.
So I mean, I would go everywhere and anywhere if I had the opportunity. I'd go. I knew that development pipeline was something that I wanted to build, so I took as many meetings as I could with any developer who would listen. So it was an intentional part to try to think through who was doing development and how could we differentiate what I knew and the skill set that I was bringing to the table to try to get more developers. But
Hmm.
the way that my business runs today, I think is a third, a third, and a third. A third of my time is spent just doing my own retail real estate. So you want to buy a house or sell a condo or do both. Your family circumstances are changing and you need to do something in the market. Great. A third is managing and helping the team. And I'm super proud of all of their efforts and how awesome we all click together, and their individual performances have been incredible.
Hmm.
Because helping them do better is something that I take a lot of pride in. And seeing the growth that we've been able to achieve collectively is pretty cool. But helping them is probably about a third of the time. And then I think another third, the final third, is the developer business, which kind of keeps the flywheel going to give us new inventory, to give us new product, to give us new opportunities to do open houses. And as you guys both know, like in this market, new product and new development seems to move at a little bit of a faster clip. People just want something that's more turnkey, not, a fixer upper. So having inventory that is really well received in the market works out really well too. But I'm super fortunate that those three pieces seem to reinforce each other and create some unity, to keep our momentum and growth going.
So very early on, you've been doing this for 7 years. Whether you stumbled into it or you sought after a team,
Right.
what's that been like? And did you, sought out? Did you seek out a team, or did you just? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I wanted to do a team. Like I've been fortunate in past lives and in different careers to be able to build and grow and lead people. It's a hard fight when you're running up the hill all by yourself. So it's fun to be with a like-minded group of people that believe in a collective goal, that are working off a common set of values, and you enjoy the day to day. So I knew I wanted to build a team. I knew I wanted to work with colleagues that become friends. I knew I wanted to work with folks that have very different skill sets. And I think the way that our group is a little bit different, is we grow for three reasons. You're playing in a geography that somebody else on the team isn't playing in. You're playing in a price point that no one else on the team is really dominating, and you bring some skill set to the group that no one else has. And I think for us, that skill set for a good long while has been language. I mean, we speak 14 different languages across the
Wow.
Yeah, I
team.
saw that on the.
Um, you know,
Yeah,
but and in a city like ours, where we're a world capital with a lot
super
of foreign and
diverse.
international influence, it's super helpful to know that we can speak everywhere from Pakistani to German to Serbian, to Portuguese to Greek to Russian. Like we can
It's
transact
amazing.
in those languages. Now, the reality is, I haven't done a deal in Greek almost ever. I don't know how many
Where are
deals
your
Really?
Greek
Simon has done in
clients?
Russian, but we can. They all speak English.
Well, I wanted to go back
Um,
really quickly. If it's our Sorry, Brent. What do you got?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to go back really quickly to the developer thing one more time, because like I know Brent does a lot of work with developers. I'd say like a sort of small portion of my business, I work with a couple developers on a regular basis. In order to stay in a developer's good graces, you have to be out there also looking for good deals for them, land or other projects to try to help them along. What is your strategy when you're looking for things, because it's not always readily apparent. It's not like you open up the MLS and you're like, oh, there's a perfect, flip or a conversion, or there's a piece of land just sitting in the middle of Shaw waiting to be developed. It's just not like that. I mean, how have you developed that side of your business to that kind of skill set?
Sure. So I mean, I think if it's in the MLS, it's not going to be a good deal.
Fair enough.
So if you're hunting MLS to find something that might work for a developer, I think that's the first thing that will be a little bit of a roadblock. I don't think I don't think there's one thing. I mean, for me, really early on, what I did was I would pull the permit stacks from DCRA, and you would spend the time and the effort to figure out, okay, this random property is owned by this LLC. Luckily, you can figure out who the corporate registrant of that LLC is,
Hmm.
and I would pound the phone and I would call people and be like, "Hey, I understand this or good afternoon, X. Like, it seems to me that you are the corporate person behind X Property LLC."
Right.
And I think they'd be a little taken back and surprised. And it was like, well, look, I think
You're aggressive.
we're supposed to be inventive. We're supposed to be inventive. We're supposed to be interesting in how we figure out what we figure out. If you give me the opportunity to take you to a coffee or a lunch, you'll see that I'm not going to send you deals that are on the market. I mean, I think it's having connections with people who are tapped into different neighborhoods where the opportunities lie. It's knowing, what neighborhoods have more favorable zoning. It's a lot of door knocking.
Yeah.
It's spending time when you're in a neighborhood and you see the pop-ups happening, like stopping by, talking to those developers who are there, or their contractors, and knocking on the neighbors' doors and saying, "Hey, you see what's happening 3 doors down? If selling is remotely of interest, I know the guy who's building that one. He'd love to talk to you about this one too."
Yeah.
At the very beginning, it was a lot of just hard, heavy lifting to figure out who's doing what. And we were fortunate. I was fortunate that I found a little bit of success in getting folks to understand that the things that we were able to tap into did have better zoning or did have the ability to convert better.
Hmm.
Um, and it began to kind of roll and trickle from there.
Are you doing this legwork, or do you have somebody on your team doing the legwork?
A little bit of both.
So they'll do the digging, they'll find the owner of the LLC, and then you're calling that person, or even like the door knocking. Like, that's tough. That's brave to go out there and knock on
Yeah.
doors and ask somebody for the business.
I
Old
mean,
school.
Yeah, that's old school. It's impressive.
if you're not door knocking where you want to farm, or if you're not door knocking the neighborhood that you think you want to really try to get listing business in,
Yeah.
um, I don't think you're doing your job right. Like, I don't care what level of success you can achieve in this business. Like, people know you by being out there. I door knock our neighborhood where we live in the Kentlands now with the kids. Like, I take them with me. We pass out our boo bash. Like, come to the Halloween party, and we knock on all the doors, invite people to our Halloween event that we do annually. But I try to go through the neighborhood at least 2 or 3 times a year. I haven't developed much business up there at all, actually. Not by choice. It's more just I haven't really focused that much on it as much as I'd like.
Hmm.
I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, but I try to do our own neighborhood at least 3 times a year. And if I can do it more, I would. Yeah, it's great to meet the people who live next door to where you live.
I think it's really important.
It's a
Well, I think it depends on the message too, right? Like, if you're solely cold calling or cold knocking on a door to get business, that's the difficult ask. But if you have a new listing and you're knocking on a door, inviting that owner over before the open house to the public, that's a totally, or to the boo poo party, boo poo, I don't know what it, whatever that
the
party
boo
is,
bash.
boo bash. So yeah, I mean that's totally different. But no, we do that in our neighborhood. So we'll do. We're thinking about now, like, Valentine's Day is around the corner. Like, Valentine's Day and Halloween are the two big ones because they're not, religiously focused. July
Yeah.
4th, we did one year, knocked on doors, gave everybody. We knocked on doors. The ones that didn't answer, we gave them chocolate M&M candies like that we have here. Was a huge mistake because it's like 95 degrees in July in Washington D.C. and they all melted. And they're like, "Thanks for
Course.
the milk chocolate melt here."
Yeah, thanks for making a mess on my front steps.
Exactly.
Some things work better than others, and you have to learn that too, right? Like that's all.
Yeah, the trial and error. The main thing is you got to try, right? If you don't try something,
Exactly.
you're not getting out of the gate. So you've got to try.
Well,
Yeah, I think
I like that old school energy though, Yanni. Like that's like, I mean,
That's
when we're
impressive.
listening, it really is, and there, especially. So you came from like more of a corporate world too, with this digital market. It was digital marketing agency is what you were working in before.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I
digital
mean,
marketing. So, I mean, Ogilvy is the world's largest advertising and marketing firm. One of
yeah,
every two TV spots you see, one of every, I think it's 3 out of 4 every radio spots they all go through the firm. I mean, David Ogilvy was, an original madman, a pioneer in thinking through how organizations communicate. At the end of the day, they were a PR firm that,
hmm
as time passed, morphed into much more of content marketing. And then when websites became a thing, they were building all of the digital ecosystems of the future. And I got tapped to run the social media department across Asia Pacific, based in Australia, and it was awesome. And I think so much of that can translate, and there's a lot of skills that translate into real estate. But you I didn't know what I didn't know in real estate, right? Like, so for me,
yeah,
it was like, you got to figure out how to block and tackle, and you got to figure out how to do the things that have been really successful in a space that you don't know. And
right,
while you can do things in better and more efficient ways, you can't change those things that work really well.
yeah,
And I think the direct appeal, the getting to understand who lives where, showing your face and becoming a resource, I think is really important. At the end of the day, people are going to want to work with folks that they trust, and people are going to work with people that understand that you're bringing value. And I think that's the bit that most people, I think, forget in our space, or take for granted in our space, or consider it a given, is
hmm
that you think you can find success. And I think some folks do find success without putting in like the requisite level of effort. But if you're going above and beyond, and you're doing the right things by as many people as you can, and you're just trying to make their day easier or their life a little less stressful, and you're adding value, like,
yeah,
that goes a really long way. And people will remember that, oh, that was the guy that left his card 3 different times, and didn't bother me over and over when I told him I wasn't ready to chat. But we've had folks that I had talked to months earlier that will come back and be like, hey, like, you had stopped by in summer X. Like,
hmm
now the time is right. Do you still want to chat? And it's like, of course I do. I'd love to. Glad that you thought of me, 6, 8, 9, 12, 14 months later. But great. The fact that you did means that we did something right at that point in time to be top of mind.
So
Quick question here.
yeah, go
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
Real question on that. Do you have a platform that you're using to follow up with all these leads that are coming in through
That was
various
literally my next question.
places?
I mean, so I have stuff in like the Compass CRM, but no, I run the entire business off of Google Forms and Google
Okay,
Drive. So I have different Google Sheets that I am tracking people. I'm tracking when I went left last. I'm tracking folks that I should circle back with. I'm tracking folks whose property has more favorable zoning than not.
Right.
But it's in Google spreadsheets.
But you have a platform. That's the main thing, right? Some people don't have a platform. It's just like in their mind, which doing it that way, you're losing a lot of leads,
Yeah,
buyers, sellers, or whatever.
I mean, I think so many things cross my mind that, like, you just push out the stuff that you should keep top of
Right.
mind.
totally.
Exactly.
No, but like, some folks do it on little spreadsheets. I know folks that are super successful that have post-it notes by their desk that they track stuff on. I transitioned to be all in the cloud because I might lose my laptop, or my phone might get dropped, or
Right.
I might lose an iPad. And as long as it's up in the cloud and I know I can access it from anywhere, that's what works for me. And I like, my backend finance is a Google sheet. My pipeline is a Google sheet. The people that I think I need to be following up with are Google Sheets. We rolled out a home anniversary tracker as just one extra touch point. We drop a cool little card, or happy anniversary on your house. That is another Google Sheet. It gets updated every time we close a deal and we have a new buyer,
Sure.
so that we know when to send them the cards. But it's all Google Sheets. It's so
So
much stuff is spun as like, this is the latest and greatest tech. If you're not using this,
Right.
like, you're not going to make forward progress. I think I think the concept of technology as like the silver bullet that's going to make everybody better, it just isn't really real. Like, Google Sheets are glorified Excel spreadsheets in the cloud, and
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheets have been around since like the early 80s. And, it
I use
works.
Google Sheets. I think it's great.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire business is run off of G Suite. Our calendar, our email, all of the docs, all of the sharing. Like there's very little that you can't do through Google Sheets, or
It's very true.
right. And we're not
Well,
even using it to like the full extent. Like there's people who have manipulated Google Sheets to tap into different APIs, and they've got jot forms that fill into other stuff. Like we could probably do incrementally better if we spent time and effort to think about it. Like, how do we maximize the Google service offering to figure out what we can do? But
that's
I don't
fascinating.
think we need to be reinventing the wheel or adding extra complexity. Google Sheets work great. We can share them with who needs to see them. We can update them in real time. Multiple people have access. It works. It works out great.
I've been experimenting with Followup Boss over the last couple weeks because I was using just regular spreadsheets for a lot of my follow-up stuff. We did have a top producer as our main CRM for our team, but top producers, I got to be honest, it's like we've had it for years, but I just don't find it to be. It's not modern enough. The interface is a little clunky, and unfortunately, a lot of our data is just sunk into there. So it would be a matter of extracting that. But I guess like it's interesting that you're talking about using the Google system, and I guess once you get more adept at that, then obviously it can all be integrated because it's like email, it is spreadsheets, it's calendar, so it really is everything all at once. And it's like it's essentially free. It's in the cloud if you're using Google, right? I mean that's it. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
look, I think
impressive.
so. One of my business mentors who is super successful and has had lots of success in different industries, and he's exited several different businesses. Told me, he's like, the best CRM is the one you're going to use.
Sure.
And I think Contactually was out before it got acquired by Compass, and it's been rolled into their own CRM. Follow Up
Hmm.
Boss is fantastic. Lots of top agents use them. In a past life, Salesforce was what Ogilvy used and what I had experience in. But if you can have the latest and greatest, but if you're not in there plugging in the data, if you're not in
Right.
there
Looking at it every
using
day.
it
Yeah.
to follow up, it's not gonna work for you. And I think there's so many awesome third party add-ons. Like, we use Calendly to think about blocking off time, and it feeds directly into the Google email
Hmm.
address that it's linked to. And like, I've got a link at the bottom of my signature where it's like, you need to find time on my calendar. Great, click there. It'll show you the calendar slots that are available. You can click, I get notified. I can accept or decline the appointment. But like, great, scheduling is taken care of by this third party app. Email and following up and, mail merges or whatever. There's great apps for that too. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And I think just really good agents and clever agents have figured out, like, I can navigate this environment in a way that isn't breaking the bank by
Hmm.
any means, because a lot of the software is free and cloud based. It's just how does it all layer in a way that you use it to make an impact?
For me, and I just had this conversation yesterday with a new agent. The first thing I tell them, I don't care what you use. If it's Top Producer, when I first started, I was with Max and he got me on the Top Producer. I used it, I loved it. And then I switched to Apple Reminders probably like 4 or 5 years ago. But whatever platform, if it's written notes, if it's Excel, Google, Top Producer, Follow Boss, pick a platform and stay with it. And to your other point, you have to upkeep, right? Like you're going to get 2 or 3 leads a week, a day, whatever. But it's going back into your database and updating that sheet with, John Jones just called. He want to sell their house in 6 months. You know, what is the look? What is the outlook? You touching base with them weekly, biweekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever that is. But you need to do that as soon as possible so that lead doesn't get lost.
You got to have the system.
Yeah.
But as long as you like, and I think that's the way, there's other systems out there. There are systems that work better for individual agents because they've adopted it and they've figured it out for themselves. That if it works for you, it might not work for Max. Whatever works for Max might not work for me. It's, you
Hmm.
got to figure out, and some of it's trial and error, some of it's experimentation. Figure out your system, and then yes, you do got to commit to it. I'm also a big believer that if it's not broken, don't change it.
Right.
April will be 7 full years in this business. everything has been in Google Sheets.
That's good.
And like, I'm not planning to change it. I mean, I can log into, I've got a Google Sheet called like the master planning document that can go all the way back to the very beginning. Some of those sheets are hidden and not in the view that I need to see today, but it's all in one place. And it just builds and builds and builds. And, it's just the way that it works.
So for your team, do you have everybody on Google Sheets, or can someone use Follow Boss, someone use Top Producer?
So I mean, most folks are in the Compass CRM, but
Mhm.
they don't. I don't micromanage to figure out how you want to manage your individual pipeline.
Okay, got it.
We have a team document that tracks where we are as a team at any point in time, so we know who's done what properties are coming, what are our buyer needs. That's all in one place. It's a Google Sheet. But individually, if Eddie wants to have his lead flow in a different platform than Simon, than Sandy, great, have at it. It's not my place to tell them this is how you should do
Right.
what you do on your day-to-day basis.
I'm literally
No, I
taking.
like that. You're
I'm like, no, I just want to say I'm taking a note on this right now because I'm thinking like how we do like our team tracking, and it's like, I think it's stupid. Like what I've been doing is because I've been using just a simple document in Excel that's in Dropbox, so everyone has access to it. But if I'm using Google, it would be already in the cloud. You can edit it directly on a browser if you want to from whatever thing you're on. You don't have to be in Excel. You don't have to have Excel on your phone. So thanks for the tip,
Yes.
Yanni.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it literally cuts that. It cuts that one step out, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I think that's what happened for a long time. Is like Dropbox and Box, like and there was a couple of other cloud-based file sharing platforms
right.
that were awesome. And at the time, it's like, great, you can take this Word doc and you can stick it in this Box folder or Dropbox folder, and someone else can go get it. But like, then they need to download it, make their edits, and then either re-upload it with another
Yeah.
version. Like,
Yeah.
Google Drive cut that process out. And like, look, I think Microsoft then realized, okay, if they're going to do that, like, then we need to make our versions cloud driven and shareable, and you can work in real time. So like now you can have a live Excel sheet do the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft's universe now allows for it. But anyway, like the ability to collaborate as a team in real time in a way that is efficient, I think is important when you're running a team. I think that's the big takeaway from like the team management side is that we all want to understand where we are, where we're going, and how we can get there with steps that make sense that everyone has accessible. And I think our documents change. Like we had a couple of different places where we had in our Drive universe a different place where people would put their buyer needs and their coming inventory, and everyone knew that it was in the Drive, but no one was using it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, what's the point of having a great file that's going to give you what's upcoming and things that buyers are looking for if no one's actually logging in to see it? So we changed a little bit of the process to incorporate talking about it. Like, so, when we have our team meeting every other Monday, we know that by Sunday night at 8:00, you got to have that document updated with your inventory and your buyers in there, so that Monday when we talk about it, we can all go look and see what we have, and we can play matchmaker if the opportunity arises. But the process has to keep tweaking.
Yeah.
Incremental improvements. If we can get 1% better every day, like it's a small thing, but that 1% adds up over time. I mean,
That's the thing is like
incremental.
When you're managing the team, it's true. Like the key is to remind everyone or have it set on your agenda that is what you're going to be talking about. If there is it a document that's important to you? There's a list of buyers. There's new listings coming up because there's always stuff going on when you have multiple agents. You got multiple salespeople. They're having like 10 different conversations a day each, if not more. And how can you keep track of it unless you like convene on it and discuss it? Because everyone's in their own world, right? So you got to really focus on that. So
yeah,
question.
The way that I got it, like, sure.
I just wanted to say, like, so you just mentioned that you have your like a bi-weekly meeting with your whole team. Like, I'm guessing on Zoom now, maybe in person sometimes. But how are you running the team? Like, who you got salespeople? Do you have back end people, marketing? Like, how are you running your team as a group?
It's a great question.
So, I mean, we try to do as much stuff as we can in person, if for folks who are comfortable doing it in person. Everything was done off of Google Hangouts because Google Meeting is baked into Calendar. But all through COVID, people were home and taking meetings from the comfort of their couches or office space or wherever they were. We've got agents that sell both listing side and buyer side. I don't have anyone who's exclusively a buyer's agent. I don't have anyone who's exclusively a listings agent. I mean, people are buying and selling and working their own leads individually. And then we have back-end support. There's 3 full-time folks that are doing everything from marketing and operations to helping run lockboxes to meeting with stagers to working, with the contractors when we suggest you've got to do, some upkeep and refreshing before a listing goes live. To the running around the day to day to make things happen. Um, we have our biweekly meeting. It's every Monday at 11. It takes about an hour. We don't change the format. We kind of go around the room. Who's working on what's coming this week that we don't know about? Have any new listings been secured that we need to understand? What are the buyers that we're working for right now? We do a quick assessment of like what are people seeing, just so we can see like, all right, we wrote an offer on a property and it had 14 other offers and we weren't expecting it, or we're doing a reduction in price on a listing, which knock on wood we haven't had to do too many of those lately. And I mean, I think the agenda of that meeting doesn't really change much. It's what's coming, where we are month or week over week, and how the outlook looks for the month. Are we on ramp individually, collectively? How are we tracking? We talk about things that we're working on from a quarterly team standpoint. Whether it's a team building event, whether it's a new photo shoot, whether it's a new campaign that we're thinking through. But I think the course of that Monday meeting doesn't change. And I think part of it is having that consistency is helpful too. Everyone makes time. We try really hard to make sure that we can be there, just because there's an opportunity for us to all be together. Sure, things comes up. You have a buyer who wants to go out and see one property that you need to get them in, or you're in the middle of doing a home inspection, or you're at a settlement. Things can take priority of trying to be there. But I think everyone on the team collectively looks at that time as something we should try to block off so we can be there together. And outside of the random reasons that we can't make that every other Monday work, we're all there together. And the meeting is effective, it's efficient, and it's a good use of everyone's time.
Do you allow cell phones in your meeting?
Yeah, people have them.
Yeah. That's sometimes like a pet peeve of mine. It's like you're in a meeting, to your point, it's 1 hour every other week, 2 hours a month. You're not meeting every month. We don't meet in August and December for the most part, but it's like for 1 hour, let's like focus on each other and how to better their group and lift us from here to higher. But it's like, everybody's checking it's like it's easier said than done, right? It's
I
like
know,
we
man.
say that, but then like to your point, it's like, oh, I'm waiting on this inspection. I've got this offer in, and offers were due last night, and the seller's supposed to get back to me, and it's
See, I think there's something that you said there that I don't think a lot of people take that position, right? Like, let's focus on the time to make everybody a little bit better. I think a lot of folks, and look, real estate in our market is really cutthroat. Like, it's competitive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it just it is what it is. If you have this abundance mentality or this viewpoint that like a rising tide lifts all boats, and if we can each just spend a little bit of time focusing on what we can do that makes each of us better, it makes each of us better
right.
for the collective thing of the team. I mean, and I know that I'm a little unique in the Thrive group. It isn't my name, right? And I think that was very much by design. I mean, coming out of the branding and the marketing disciplines through Ogilvy, like I couldn't comprehend or get why teams had the principal name, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Brent. Why
and also
why
Yanni
is it called the Brent
Konstantopoulos.
team?
I know.
Backhanded comment
I
right
know.
there.
Sorry, dude. The Robin Brent. Yeah, I don't get that. But like for me, it was like, for me, it's not a backhanded compliment at
No,
all. I mean, your
I'm
business
interested
is
in
in
this
a
too
much more
because
broad and larger state
yeah,
than mine is. But for me, it's like, Yanni Konstantopoulos is a freaking mouthful. So like the Yanni Konstantopoulos group was just going to fail.
I was worried I was going to say your
But
name wrong at the beginning of the podcast, and I nailed it. I think I nailed it.
I'm wondering,
you nailed it. You did
you
great.
call him? Like I was thinking, like I
No,
couldn't have got that, but like Yanni
I-
K is there.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually practiced. I practiced a little bit this morning. So you got a pro over here.
You knocked it out of the park. You knocked it
Okay.
out of the park right out of the gate, which is great. But for me, it was like, it's got to be a collective. I mean, I remember vividly we did one of our events at the Hepburn, which we did it's been a while since we had an event up there, but we had one of our big summer events we usually do in June or July to kind of set the pace for the fall market. And it was great. Like we were greeting a bunch of guests and clients, and one of Eddie's clients was like, "Oh, you work on Eddie's team?" It's like, I certainly do. Like for me, it doesn't matter. Like I don't care that it's my group, but it's a collective. If we all
Hmm.
and I want everyone to feel that ownership and to feel like the pride in saying they're part of our team. And for me, it was always a thing. Like it's got to be bigger than just one person, otherwise it'll fall flat. Like I can get hit by a bus, knock on wood, and then what?
Yeah.
Luckily now we have the systems and the process in place that someone could step up and take the mantle of the Thrive group and keep it going. And I think there's a lot of things that we play with the play on words of thrive and always be thriving, and we push that activity, right? Like
Yeah.
so that was part of the thinking on why it was never, you know, the Yanni
Yanni
Show
team.
or the Yanni
I like
or
that.
the
The
Yanni
Yanni
team. Like,
Show, not like a team. The
The
Yanni
Yanni
Show.
Show.
I like it.
yeah, that
I like that. I think
that would also fail. I need to set up a podcast, and maybe it'll be the
There you
Yanni
go.
Show.
I think it's the right approach too, because I'm seeing more and more teams that are forming now. It's less about Rob and Brent or Max and Jonathan or whatnot. It's more about Thrive Partners or District
Right.
whatever it is, right? It's
Yeah.
they're coming up with names, and to me, I always think long term, right? Like let's say that you want to cash out in 20 years, who's going to buy Rob and Brent? Rob and I are having a discussion over the weekend, and can we sell our name for $100 million? Absolutely not. But could you sell the Thrive group for 100 million? I'm just throwing out random numbers, but like someone might acquire that, probably somebody within their group where you could.
I think if the Thrive Group was
There's a
for
lot
sale
more.
for 100 million and someone was buying it, I think Yanni would be like, "Here you go, take
Yep,
it."
thank you. I've done my job.
uh, we'd figure out other things to do. Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
Is there anything that has not worked well for you during
mhm.
your 7 years here that you would go back and you would tell little Yanni, this did not work, let's go down this path?
Um, sure. Putting too many eggs in one basket.
Elaborate.
So I had the pleasure of working with a particular developer that was doing a lot of great projects, tons of them. Um, and we established great rapport. We were bringing them opportunities that they would transact on and give us the out sales. But that one developer ended up having things happen within their own business that altered their course, and they stopped developing. Well, at one point I had 34 different units. It was like $16 million worth of pipeline that just never materialized. And I mean, that was a lesson I learned the hard way, to never have too much pipeline or too much opportunity rest with one developer, because they too can have challenges
No
that
kidding.
happen. And it was a hard thing to see that much inventory and that much opportunity and that much volume and that much is really great product in different parts of the city that were really varied, just evaporate. So that was a thing that now I have learned. You got to have multiple irons in the fire across all of the different verticals that you're trying to play in: listings, buyers, price points, developers. The more you can add in, the better off you're going to be. So that was something that was more of a rude awakening, because the market was hot. They were selling, they were building, they were growing, um, and then all of a sudden they weren't. So that's something to keep in mind. Is you know y- what's the expression, like, you got to save for the rainy day. Like, you never know when it's raining.
Right.
you know Realizing that it's not always going to be sun shining, and thinking a little bit about how to save and plan for those rainy days is important.
Hmm. I think you hit like a lot of really great stuff on this today, and like you basically answered like all the essential questions that like you've given advice like that I'm getting ready to implement as soon as we walk out of here. So I really appreciate all of that. Um, I think our one last question before we go to the rapid fire is what would you say is the most rewarding part of your business, like in its essence?
So I think there's two things that I think don't change ever, and I think one is more of if you really enjoy sales, like the thrill of getting the call from a listing agent that, hey, we had multiple offers, but our seller wants to work with your buyer.
Hmm.
That feeling of getting that win. We're not even at settlement yet, right? Like a million things can happen to possibly derail the deal, but that feeling that we got it, like, is awesome. And if you're a
Yeah.
salesperson, like that win is something that's not replicatable because you get the great high that you know that you, for whatever reason, your offer was better than the X number of offers they got. But then you get to then hang up the phone with the listing agent, pick up the phone to call your client and break the news to them that, hey, I don't know if you're sitting down, like, or I don't know if you've got a bottle of wine ready to crack open. We're not at the finish line yet, but you guys got it. That feeling is awesome. And I think that is a really, really cool thing that, it might be a little bit selfish that I enjoy that bit of it as much as I do, but I think I enjoy it
No.
not because of the win of the sale, but because I get to then be the one to break the news to the buyer. So I think that's part of it. I think the second bit that's really rewarding for me is the perspective that we're so blessed and so lucky that we can call this profession our day to day in a market like ours. When you see all of the craziness that's going on in the world with, increases in carjackings and people getting shot and wildfires like the ones in Boulder, like people's lives can change in an instant, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not getting shot at. I don't have to carry medical malpractice insurance because I'm a surgeon doing things. Like I get to show people property and help them understand how what is arguably the biggest financial decision they're going to make for most people, their
Hmm.
house. There's folks that are buying really, really expensive cars and putting all of their investments in crypto. Like,
Sure.
luckily, I'm not there, and most of my clients aren't. But at the end of the day, for most people, buying or selling a home is the biggest thing you're going to do. And I get to help guide you through that process in a way that gives you comfort and gives you peace of mind and gives you just the knowledge that, okay, I think I'm in a really good spot here. And knowing that then they hang up the phone or they close the deal and they move into their house and then they invite us to kids' birthdays and they invite us to their housewarming barbecue and they tell their friends and their family, oh, Yanni and his team were the ones that helped us get this property while also selling our condo at the same time so we can make this happen. That's something that you can't replace. And I think the knowledge and the understanding and the perspective that what we do helps really change the outlook of what people are doing in the city is really cool. And we're super fortunate and blessed that we get to be part of that journey.
I love it. Well,
That was great.
that's awesome.
One other topic we didn't go to, which is a whole nother episode. You have a really good buyer agent seminar that you've been putting on, even when you were back at our firm. I remember coming. Some of our clients would go to it, and they're like, "Man, he was great. Yeah, it's such a great seminar." It's like that's a whole nother episode. We'll have to have you back on for.
Happy to. I mean, it was one of the anchors of like you need buyers to help fuel your buyer business. Well, what better way to get buyers than to put on a workshop that teaches people how to buy?
Yeah.
And we were fortunate that they were well attended. We were fortunate that we converted great new buyers from them. I think one of the things that's not opaque about our space is there's so much that the public just doesn't know. Well, I think it's our job to not peel back the onion, but to let them understand how the process works.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I like public speaking. I've been fortunate to have presented various topics at various events and conferences. So being able to stand up in front of 50 people to talk about the local housing market and, DC opens doors and what is lending talking about and what do they care about? Like it wasn't really complicated to put together.
Right.
So we try to make it fun and interactive and clever. And we bring in people that I don't want you to just hear from me, right? You need to hear lending from a lender. You want to talk about the closing process, talk to a settlement attorney. You want to hear how the first time homebuyer process went? Great. Talk to Alex, who just bought a house with us 3 weeks ago, and he had never bought a house before. Ask him all the questions. They were great events. We still run them. We've transitioned to doing them virtual, more so in the pandemic time. We're trying to get back to doing them as in person as we can.
Hmm.
But I mean, if you are a brand new agent and you are trying to figure out how to get more buyers, I
Yeah,
can't recommend running workshops as frequently as you can, because you're just providing a freebie. It's a value add to as many people as can hear.
Very smart.
really smart.
Max, any more questions
I
before we
no,
start rapid fire?
he covered it all and he nailed it. Yanni, thank you.
Still taking notes over there.
I'm literally,
Oh, Max, I appreciate it.
I'm literally taking another note right
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
We're
hit him
going to
with
go
a
to,
rapid
I
fire.
want to sign up for your first buyer program there, Max.
Yeah, I've got some ideas
So,
for that. Yeah, go
Yanni,
for it.
rapid fire. 5 questions. What is your guilty pleasure?
At poker,
Any good
easy.
at it? I'm assuming.
I'd like to think that I'm okay. Uh, I track everything. So like I haven't had losses in a while. On like you'll lose individual sessions, but on the whole, I'm up and I'm good.
That's good.
And I enjoy it. It's fun. I think it helps sharpen you for other things. But yeah, poker, easy, guilty pleasure.
I had a
Awesome.
poker obsession for years when poker was really booming. Like what was that, 2006 to maybe like 2010. I read books. I played online. I played in Vegas. Like I was nuts. And then I don't know. I don't know why I let it go, but I've actually with my girlfriend's kids, I've gotten them into playing. Like we started with just 5 card, and then we started playing Texas Hold'em. The 7-year-old like loves playing Texas Hold'em, and it's amazing to see how they can actually, like a young kid can strategize into how to bet. I can't believe it. So
So I
it's a
think
great tool.
the best thing about poker for me, and we'll get back to rapid fire, like poker, and I only play Texas Hold'em. It's the only game that I'll play. And I play not super crazy stakes because I'm conservative with my own capital, but I'm not playing the 1-3 game either. So I'm playing decent stakes.
hmm
Um, Poker, you can control the cards that you've been dealt, and you can control your reaction to the outcome at the end of the hand. What you can't control is the part of the middle.
The
You
cards.
can't control what's going to come out the chute.
Yeah.
You can't control what any of the other players are doing. But for me, I mean, I look at poker as like I'm not playing against the house, right? Like I've played blackjack and I play roulette when I go to the casino every once in a while for fun. But like in the in the long run, the casino will always win. At poker, you are playing against the other 8 idiots at the table that think they're better than the other players. But like your odds, you're not playing against the house; you're playing against them.
Right.
But it's very much a game, and I think it's very much a game that corresponds to life in a lot of ways. Like no one's two cards are ever the same. Like in life, everyone comes from different backgrounds, different walk of life, different opportunity, different skill sets. Like the cards they were dealt are super different. In life, you're going to have to make bets on different things, like what you want to do, like how much you want to invest in X, whether you buy this
Yeah.
house or that house, whether you like are going to pursue this career path or another. You are betting on various things. But again, at the end of the day, the outcome can very much be a stroke of luck. Like you can have pocket aces and play it absolutely perfect. You bet the flop, you get called, you raise the guy's turn card, and he picks up a queen at the end, and his 3 queens are better than your 2 aces, and you lose it all.
Happens all
It's
the
just the
time.
way that it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And
It's a great analogy.
it's just an interesting thing that poker, like if applied right, I think is an interesting thing that has a lot of correlations to life.
What are
Okay.
you currently reading?
So I just finished reading Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It's a second time reading through that book. He's a ex-Navy SEAL that is all about whatever you are trying to tackle in your own life. Like you have to think about how you can take better ownership and understanding all of the pieces of that puzzle. So I'm working through that as a second read. Extreme Ownership. I can't recommend it enough.
Nice.
The guy has a podcast where he talks about discipline and how that manifests itself in his day-to-day life. He's a little bit of a machine, a little bit crazy. I mean, the guy's up at 4:30 every single morning.
Oh, it's Brent Jackson.
Yeah. Oh,
Maybe it's my brother from another mother.
like Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink. Great book.
Favorite TV show?
Cobra Kai.
Oh my God, I love
Nice.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai on Netflix is literally meant for people of our age
Yes.
and demographic. I mean, it's so brilliantly written. it's fascinating to me how many little 5, 8 second clips they can take from 3 movies from 30
Uh,
years ago
right?
and build entire narrative arcs about. But I love it. I let my 7-year-old watch it, which might be a little bit of
Little
a
iffy.
parenting fail. There's
Or my 8-year-old's watching it. He
yeah,
loves it.
it's amazing. I can't get enough. Like I binge watched like it came out New Year's Eve or the
Right.
day before New Year's. We watched the entire season in 2 days.
Yeah.
But Cobra Kai, hands down.
The writing on
Yes.
that is phenomenal. I don't know who
Yes,
the
sir.
writer is, but they knocked it out of the park.
And the fact that they've been able to bring all of these people back, like
Like the
I
actual
mean, I think
actors,
the
I know.
original,
Yeah.
yeah, like I think the original movie came out in like 87 or 80. I don't even know when Karate Kid
I think
1
it's like
came out, but the fact
84.
that all of them are still
I think
around,
it's 84. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it is, they've gotten them all, and like it seems like none of them have aged a day. It's so well done on so many levels. There's a reason that Netflix and HBO are just killing the TV
Yeah.
game and creating great content.
Aside from our podcast, what other podcast are you listening to?
So I listen to you guys. I listen to Deeper Pockets or Bigger Pockets podcast.
Bigger pockets. Yeah.
Bigger
one.
pockets.
The Bigger Pockets. There's I listen to a couple of auto blogs, like overlanding stuff,
Mhm.
like how to get better with your camper and how to carry the right
Okay.
type of gear when you're out in the wilderness, which is kind of random. But not a lot. I'm more of a reader than I am a podcast listener.
Any predictions for? We just started in 22. Any predictions for this year?
In terms of market,
Real
market.
estate market.
sure. I think we'll have another strong market this year, at least through June, July. I think at that point, I think a big part of it's going to depend on what the Fed does with rates. So first
Mhm.
rate cut or first rate hike is expected in March. If we have one in March and then we have one again in June, and your 2.75 interest rate jumps to 3.75 or 4, it's going to squeeze that 600 to $1 million buyer a good bit.
Mm.
I think we're really well shielded in our metro market. We're going to be okay, but I think a significant rate increase will trickle down pretty hard. So I'm interested to see how the inventory and pricing continues if we do have precipitous rate increases. But I'm expecting a good year. We've projected, another 25% year-over-year growth in what we're trying to tackle as a business. I don't think prices are going to go up another 12% this year like they did last year in some markets. I think we're going to eventually see a little bit of a leveling off. Just because if we don't, then we're really bordering a space where we're just detaching fundamentals from the reality of things. I mean, we had folks that submitted an offer today on a property in Upper Northwest. Yeah, there's 13 offers on it. Places listed, I think, at 1.3. It's probably going to climb well over 1.5.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I know that I can go into that house, like disconnect the gas from the kitchen, let it run for 5 minutes, throw in a match, and start from scratch for less than 1.5. So it's
know.
like we have to be very cautious where the fundamentals of what things cost and take and time and land,
I'm with you.
are connecting to how much people are willing to pay. And I think that there's going to be not a reckoning because most people aren't buying their house to flip out of it 2 years later, 3 years later. But if there is a correction and we do see a leveling off of prices or a decline, God forbid, and you've overpaid for your house by 100K or 200K, well,
Yeah.
then there's going to be a really big problem when you've got to get out of it and there's not a buyer for you. I don't think that alarmist perspective is anything we need to worry about in our markets. But if we do see a dip and a downturn, I think some of the neighborhoods that have had crazy precipitous growth are going to be the first ones to cool and to contract. But I think that the exodus from the city into the burbs is going to continue.
Mhm.
I think Potomac is going to continue to have an insane appreciation. You look at the Potomac submarket, for a long time, it was in decline.
Yeah.
Like people were not into that lifestyle. It wasn't highly walkable. There wasn't too much stuff near you. And COVID has brought some of those properties roaring back. And I think in this work from home culture, and I think a lot of companies are not going to institute come back to the office. And I think even the ones that do, really good talent's going to be like, nope, Like, I'm not going to. I've been super successful and I'm doing my
There's
job from
yeah.
remote. I have a home office in my awesome neighborhood. I don't need to come back here. And I think a lot of employers are going to be like, I think you're right. Okay, let's figure this out. So I think there's certain neighborhoods that are going to just over appreciate still. Because you can be really successful at home and you can have your space and you can have a pool and
Yeah.
you're going to ride out the next pandemic and shutdowns or whatever. But I think I see good things for the market. I think there's greenfield for this year and next. But I think the rates and where we are from an inventory standpoint is going to be the bigger driver of whether that continues or not.
Yeah, that's great insight.
Sharp stuff. Well, Yanni, thank you again for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate having you and taking time out of your day for us. And yeah, I mean, like I said, taking notes over here. So really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yanni,
for having
thank
me.
you. One last point. Thank you for coming on. And as a token from us, we like to donate to a charity of your favorite, something that you're attached to aside from MGM. Just kidding there. But if there is a charity that you're totally attached to and you want us to donate, we do that on your behalf.
Oh, that's amazing. So Others May Eat. It's here local. They're an awesome organization. They help feed the hungry. I think it's a thing that we can absolutely all do better at. In our city, next to places that are $1,000 per square foot, there's folks that don't have food.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we can do more as agents and as just the public to make sure that that's not something that people have to deal with in 2022 in this country. So Others Might Eat. It's great.
Thanks, Yanni.
Thanks.
Thank you, Yanni.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.